I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Matthey. Trustee Bolin.
Here.
Trustee Milawambwe.
Here.
Trustee Emig.
Here.
Trustee Painter.
Here.
Trustee Carrillo. Trustee Ward.
Here.
Trustee Crable.
Here.
Trustee Bray.
Here.
Trustee Renner.
Here, thank you very much. We have a quorum. Under the consent agenda, we have several items under number 4, A, B, and C. It's approval of the minutes from November 23rd, 2020, and action and approval by the board on the monthly general town fund, general assistance fund and audits, and then approval of the general town fund anticipated expenditures as presented and certified. Are there any items that any trustee would like to have removed for separate consideration? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve items under consent agenda as presented?
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion.
Several. Moved by, I heard Trustee Matthey, and I see Trustee Bolin. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? Oh, I'm sorry.
Trustee Renner, sorry. I actually don't have Trustee Matthey present.
Oh, who did I hear then? Maybe
It
that
was
was
Jeff. It was
Oh,
Jeff.
sorry. Okay, I apologize. Moved by the deep voice of Trustee Crable, and second by the not as deep voice. Actually, it wasn't deep at all. I think it was just a Winston Churchill victory sign by Trustee Bolin. And so, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Trustee Bolin.
Yes.
Trustee Milawambwe.
Yes.
Trustee Emig.
Yes.
Trustee Painter.
Yes.
Trustee Ward.
Aye.
Trustee Crable.
Yes.
Trustee Bray.
Yes.
Trustee Renner.
Yes, thank you very much. Motion carried. No nays to announce, Madam Clerk. We move to item number 5, resolution amending resolution 2017-02, a resolution adopting a policy prohibiting sexual harassment for the town of the city of Bloomington. And that is item number 5. Is there a motion to go forward with that? Moved by Trustee Ward, second by Trustee Painter. Any discussion on that? Comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Trustee Bolin.
Yes.
Trustee Milawambwe.
Yes.
Trustee Emig.
Yes.
Trustee Painter.
Yes.
Trustee Ward.
Aye.
Trustee Crable.
Yes.
Trustee Bray.
Yes.
Trustee Renner.
Yes, thank you very much. Move to item number 6, ordinance amending ordinance 2020-04, an ordinance authorizing the creation and implementation of a community emergency response program for eligible residents of the city of Bloomington Township. Is there a motion and a second to begin discussion on this?
So moved, Mayor. This is
Moved
Jeff.
Moved by Trustee Craybill and second by Trustee Bolin. I got it on the money this time. Any comments on this or debate? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Bolin.
Yes.
Trustee Milawambwe.
Yes.
Trustee Emig.
Yes.
Trustee Painter.
Yes.
Trustee Ward.
Aye.
Trustee.
I'm here.
Oh,
Yep.
hi. Hi, Jen. Trustee Carrillo.
Yes.
Trustee Crable.
Yes.
Trustee Bray.
Yes.
Trustee Renner.
Yes, thank you very much. Move next to our reports by our elected officials. We're going to start with Deb Skillrood, Ms. Skillrood, our Township Supervisor. Deb?
Supervisor Skillrood, you're on mute.
Thank you. I do not have anything really to report other than what's in the supervisor's report. If anybody has a question, certainly I'm open to discuss anything that you have.
I see a question from Trustee Craybill. Jeff?
Thanks, Mayor. Deb, if you could just explain what we just approved in item number 6 with regard to the emergency response program, just what that means for the community.
Thank you, Trustee Crabo. What that means is we've extended it through the phase 5 instead of putting a date on it. We've just made some changes to the program. That program is available as a last resort. So as we're working through the community agencies, especially federally funded, federal funds, we're still going to be able to have help for the community through the SERP program to help with rent and utilities. And it's flexible, more flexible than our general assistance and emergency assistance programs are through the state statute requirements through Township. So we'll be able to help, and what I'm seeing as an emerging need, some SSI individuals who are on a very fixed income, but still have issues. One of those issues is that they were working as supplemental to a low income. They were working odd jobs, and those jobs aren't there as much anymore. So the need is emerging in that regard. So we'll be able to take care of them as soon as we know that other agencies have exhausted all their funds. So.
Great. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Any other questions of Ms. Gilroot? Seeing none? Thank you very much, Deb. And we move on to Mr. Scudder. Steve?
Good evening. The assessments were sent over in September, and we had a equalized assessed value of a little over $2 billion that we sent to the Board of Review. Going through the complaint process, typically there's a reduction in that amount. Typically the board reduces some of the complainants to their value on a single individual basis. So just to let you know that $2 billion is going to be reduced probably after we get the updates from the county for the board review process. Any other questions?
Thank you. Questions of Mr. Scudder? Seeing none, thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate it. Next, Madam Clerk, any comments on public comments on township meetings?
None were received, no emails either.
Okay, thank you so much. At this point, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Trustee Bolin, who's up to 4, and Trustee Craybill, who's up to 5. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you. We will see you all in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Mathy,
Here.
Councilmember Bolin,
Here.
Councilmember Milawamble,
Here.
Councilmember Emig,
Present.
Councilmember Painter,
Here.
Councilmember Correa,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Crable,
Here.
Councilmember Bray,
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. We're going to start with an update from our city manager on COVID-19.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A couple of quick comments. We're continuing to process and issue liquor complaints for establishments that are operating indoors. Number two, we'll be preparing an ordinance for the City Council to consider in one of the January council meetings to continue the city's proration of fees for those businesses shut down by the COVID mitigation rules. And then also, I think everybody's seen in the local and the national news the rollout of the vaccinations. One thing that we'll see is more information from the county that's driven by the Illinois Department of Public Health. And but one thing that we know is we will receive, at least initially, a lower dose amount because we are fortunately a county that does not have as high a death rate as some of the other counties throughout the state. So that's actually good news. And then the last one, I'm going to comment to it, but I'm going to leave it to the mayor and the mayor pro tem to comment to later. Exciting COVID-related news that we'll hear at the end of the meeting. Mayor?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that and all that you're doing, obviously, and your staff, Mr. Gleason. At this point, we're going to move on. We don't have any recognitions or appointments. Public comment, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have quite a few email public comments. If I can read that list: Misty Metros, Dave Kobus, Gary Schultz, Creighton Boudris, and Serena Fish. Those have all been provided to council. And we have 5 people on the line right now to speak at public comment. The first one is Don Carlson.
Thank you. Don? Don, can you hear us?
A reminder that you have to press *6 to unmute.
Looks like are you there now?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Don, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Don Carlson, and I'm a resident of Ward 4 in Bloomington. My comment tonight is directed to the Welcoming America issue. I and many others were involved in the Welcoming City campaign a few years ago. Then, as now, there is a big difference between Welcoming America and our Welcoming City Ordinance campaign. There may be benefits to joining a Welcoming America network. However, it doesn't replace the need for Bloomington to clearly define how our police will interact with federal ICE agents, which is what a Welcoming City Ordinance specifically does. But while we should always be open to innovative work of other communities, there are many grassroots and faith leaders right here who sought your council support for a Welcoming City Ordinance. We encouraged the negotiations with the police chief and the city attorney to address their concerns. But we were told we would lose federal grant money, and we were told that it would put a federal ICE target on our city's back. And then we were told it would be too divisive. And none of those fears came true. Now we're told we don't need a Welcoming City Ordinance because there isn't a problem. This is the same thing we were told when indeed our police were regularly communicating with ICE. The social compact we share in this city is that we set policy on police conduct for what's right and not the degree or the amount of police misbehavior. If we wait until it's a problem again, we'll have waited too long. In closing, in my faith tradition, Pope John the 23rd spoke of the need for justice to come before charity or social services. I encourage this council to work with those wanting to work with you to develop a meaningful welcoming city ordinance about justice, and then take up Welcoming America's programmatic work. Let's build the foundation first, and then the house. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next.
Next up, we have John Reed.
Mr. Mayor, Council, how are you all this evening? Glad to see you're looking better, Mr. Mayor. I have two comments. First, we'll start with Jeff. Jeff, a couple weeks ago, you stood outside of Rob Dobbs shooting a video of a parking lot. I got to tell you, that's a pretty fascist thing to do. Trying to shut a business down that's trying to make money, pay their employees, serve the public the best way possible in these trying times. Quite the fascist move, Jeffrey. Quite the fascist move. Now, Mr. Mayor, sorry to hear you were diagnosed with COVID, but it's interesting that during the 13 days you had symptoms, you were out running around. People saw you at the store, at restaurant, and then just today you were videoed at a gym. A week before, after you were diagnosed with COVID, you should be out and about. We've had this conversation before on text, Terry. When I called you out for dancing at Rob Dobbs without a mask, called you a hypocrite. Remember what you said to me via text? I can repeat it if you want me to. But you were definitely, in the dictionary next to the word hypocrite is your picture. But you got to live with that. Hopefully you didn't get anybody else sick running around with COVID. I guess the rules are only good for us instead of you, huh? And as far as a welcoming city goes, yeah, it's probably a better idea than a Welcome America ordinance, better than welcoming city. Because as Jeff knows, we have to follow laws in this country, right, Jeff? Because you're a lawyer. Anyway, I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next.
Next up, we have Robert Garcia. I'm sorry, Willie Halbert. My apologies. Robert Garcia will be next. Thanks.
Willie, you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Willie.
I just want to say good evening to everyone. My name is Willie Holton Halbert, and I have lived in Bloomington for over 40 years. I have volunteered and assisted our community with many efforts to help ensure that our community is inclusive of all. I'm reminded of when I served on the Bloomington Human Relations Commission back in 1995, and there was an issue that was approving an ordinance that prohibited discrimination based on sexual orientation. I was an advocate for this ordinance, and it took years to provide education and awareness that all people have a right to be respected and have equality. I found once people became aware and listened, they became more sensitive to other needs, and the ordinance was finally passed. You see, people recognize discrimination of any kind is wrong. The adoption of a welcoming city ordinance would help advance a positive migration agenda by providing a venue for our city to share promising practices and policies that build a cohesive community, one that embraces and includes immigrants and foster opportunity for all. Recommended it limit the communication between police department and federal immigration authorities, and should consider limiting use of local resources in federal immigration operations. It does not condone illegal immigration, but protects individuals who have lived and worked here, and many being essential workers who continue to sacrifice themselves and are a part of our community. Bloomington is an inclusive community, and this ordinance will help reflect and support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next.
Next up, we have Robert Garcia.
Robert?
Can you guys hear?
Robert?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
can.
can. Robert, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Robert Garcia. I'm a volunteer with Freedom for Immigrants. I'm also a trained Know Your Rights volunteer by the Immigration Project and a certified community navigator for our immigrant community here locally, again through the Immigration Project. I'm also an asylum seeker sponsor through ASSP, the Asylum Seeker Sponsorship Project. I want to speak today about the two different programs that have been debated week after week here, and just try to shed some good clarity. And I appreciate and will echo the sentiments of Mr. Carlson. Don spoke before me, and that's really the key here, is that these two programs, the Welcoming City Ordinance and the Welcoming Americas program, are not the same. Obviously, the Welcoming City Ordinance has a very key goal, and that is to protect our local immigrant community. And while there is a safety pillar within the Welcoming Americas program, it does not rise to the level of protection that the local community has been advocating for I think going on 3 years now, and we still have yet to receive a vote. So I want to talk a little bit about, and I should mention I live in Ward 2, which is Ms. Donna Boland's ward, and I do appreciate, Ms. Boland, your efforts to lead and advocate for the Welcoming Americas program. I am in favor of the program, believe it or not, but I just want to shed some clarity here. First of all, Welcoming Americas program is a very robust, highly complex program. We're talking about a 12-month process. This isn't easy. It's a massive, massive undertaking, and the public needs to know this. It's not an easy feat. There are hidden costs that have yet to be disclosed to us. And we as taxpayers and voters have a right to know the full extent of those costs. Yes, we know it costs thousands and thousands of dollars just to start the program, just to request certification. But what has not been disclosed, what we have not seen, is the full analysis of the administrative burden and cost. How many hours of manpower is it going to take our staff, our city staff, to be able to meet the documentation and program creation that's required by such a massive undertaking? One thing we have always agreed on, regardless of where you stand on other issues, is that we have to be fiscally conservative. I am concerned about the hidden costs of pursuing this program. Now, having said all that, I want to be clear. I'm actually in favor of this program. But here's where I caution, here's my biggest concern. If we really care about protecting our immigrant communities, we should do so in a way that is fiscally conservative and responsible. And that would mean that we start by taking the path of least resistance. We start with the low-hanging fruit. That is the Welcoming City Ordinance, which is paramount to protecting our local immigrant community. If we can accomplish that, then we can pursue the larger feat.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next up, and the last one to speak tonight, is Lori Patton.
Lori, you there?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Lori. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Lori Payton. I live at 613 East Taylor Street, Bloomington. I am a member of the Bloomington Normal Quaker meeting, and I speak on behalf of several Quakers as well as myself in support of the Welcoming Cities Ordinance. We recognize and respect our undocumented neighbors for their financial contribution to our community. They work here, spend money here, and pay taxes here. As some of you know, non-citizens don't have a Social Security number to use for income taxes, but they do pay income taxes using a taxpayer ID number. We also see how Welcoming Cities Ordinance can help police with investigating a crime. If undocumented people are not threatened by ICE, they can come forward and talk to the police if they are victims or witnesses to a crime. But most importantly, we support Welcoming Cities because we believe families should not live with the threat of separation. We think about family separation in the detention camps at the border, but it happens in Illinois too. Parents should not have to worry about not seeing their kids again when they go to work every day. Some people might say that the family should not be here without documentation, but it's very difficult and expensive to do. And I am humble enough to realize that if I was very poor and perhaps scared of gangs or corrupt police, I would cross the border to protect my family too. My undocumented neighbors, whom I have met personally, are good people, and I want Bloomington to be a place where they feel welcome and safe. On behalf of myself and other members at my Quaker meeting, thank you for allowing me a chance to speak.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your perspective. At this point, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Just to clarify, Madam Clerk, there's no one else on the line. Is that correct?
That's correct. I did just want to read Leah Penson's name. She did register and is not present in the meeting. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. We'll move to the consent agenda. Are there any items that any member of the City Council would like to have removed for separate consideration? Councilmember Ward.
Yes, I'd like to remove 8I.
8I as in icky, right?
As in igloo.
Igloo. Okay. Today, yeah, it feels cold. Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item I as in igloo? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Matthew, did you want to remove something or to make that motion?
I was going to make the motion, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Moved by Councilmember Matthew, second by Councilmember Bray. Any further discussion? Okay, this is again a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item I as in igloo. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Matthew.
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin.
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe.
Yes.
Councilmember Emig.
Yes.
Councilmember Painter.
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Councilmember Crable.
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carries. No nays to announce, Madam Clerk. I'm going to turn the floor over to Councilmember Ward under item I. Molly, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to move that the ordinance be approved on the condition that the screening be modified to include the south side of the property, exclusive of the driveway.
Okay, so your motion is to approve item I with, if you would restate the conditions, please.
Yes, with the condition on screening to be modified to include the south side of the property, exclusive of the driveway.
Okay.
So this special use permit, I don't know if I need to pause there.
If there's a second to that, and then we'll move forward. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
Councilmember Bray, Councilmember Ward, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just by way of explanation, the special use permit, the recommendations that were made for granting this special use permit called for a fence to be along the west side of the property. And in conversation with some members of some neighbors directly across Mason from the property, I've been hearing general support for the special use permit to be granted, but there was a concern that the west fence wasn't enough, but that they would prefer to have some screening along the south side of the property because of to basically camouflage the parking lot and the work being done within the property. And so they're generally in favor of supporting this business. They're in favor of them being granted the permit, but they would like to have that south side fenced as well. The south side of the property has a little driveway that connects to the property immediately south of the one that we're considering. And the offices for the business All About Auto are in that second building, and the neighbors are not interested in impeding their access to that. They don't want to create problems there, but they also would like to have some camouflage so that they're not having to look at it when they look at what's going on in the All About Auto work area and parking lot. And so that's what they're asking for. And I'm supportive of that and would ask that the council would join me in supporting that.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Ward. I appreciate that. Any questions or comments? Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor, and it is to approve item I as presented, but with the amendments as articulated by Councilmember Ward. Anything else? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Matthey,
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe,
Yes.
Councilmember Emig,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carried. No nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Councilmember Ward, for taking care of your ward. At this point, we move on to item 9A, our regular agenda, consideration and action on an ordinance amending Chapter 7 of the City Code to create a video gaming license wait list as requested by the City Clerk Department. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Gleason and Ms. Yoakum to give us a brief presentation, and we have a very brief, apparently, council discussion of 3 minutes. Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This will be brief. This was an item that would typically be on the consent agenda, but since it does involve video gaming licensing, felt that we should have this on regular, and going to allow the city clerk, Leslie Yoakum, to explain this. But it's an idea that originated from her, and look for council support. Leslie.
Hi, Council, and good evening again. So this one, with video gaming, I've been in the City Clerk Department, clerking now here for 2 years. And originally, when I came in, video gaming had already been established. At that time, there was a discussion when video gaming first came about a wait list, but it wasn't something that the then clerk thought that it would be easy to manage. And with having, I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew that as we lifted the moratorium on gaming you did, that, and you put a cap on it, that at some point we were going to get to a point where other businesses would be interested. What I found is we've reached our cap, and then we had a license come back. And so then we got to issue it the 60th one again. We just recently did that last week to Rosati's. And we've had some small businesses that all run to my counter, I guess in a virtual sense right now because of COVID, but they run to the counter for this license. And this last time, Rosati's and the Pass Bar and Grill were 5 minutes apart in the applications that I received. Both qualified for the license, but the first one to, the finish line is the one that received it. And so in doing so, I've seen a couple of times now that this is becoming a problem. And so what I'm recommending is that you allow me to maintain a wait list in my department. The way that they would come onto the wait list is they would apply just the same. If they would have been issued a license, had there been one available, then they'll be placed on the wait list. The wait list will be maintained on the website, so it's transparent to the public, so they know where we're standing with license. They know where the wait list sits, and when a license becomes available, the first person on the list will be contacted. We'll give them 14 calendar days to update the information that was included in their previous application. So if there was a change in a floor plan or an insurance, something that needs to be updated, they'll have 14 days. We'll issue the license if we can. If they don't qualify at the time, we'll go to the next one on the list. So I think it's just a great way to keep the playing field fair and be transparent with the community. Thanks.
Thank you very much. At this point, before we move any further, is there a motion on this item before we move to our massive 3-minute council discussion? Moved by Councilmember Matthey, and I'm assuming that's a motion to approve. Okay. Is there a second second by Councilmember Painter? I see her. Actually, she's making sure I see her. Okay, at this point, any comments then on this? Councilmember Painter.
Thank you, Leslie. This is a no-brainer for me. I'm surprised we haven't done this before. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Ditto what Councilmember Painter said. Councilmember Emi.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick follow-up. I assume the order in which you received these requests or submissions, if you will, is the order in which they will appear on the wait list.
Yeah, so that's correct. We will use the same process that we use when applications come in as if there was a license available. So they get time and date stamped with the email time is what we use. If they, let's say they go to the Arena Hub where we're still forward facing or outward facing to the public, it'll be time and date stamped by that. By the staff there. And so that's how we'll process them in that order. Also, I should mention that we'll begin accepting applications with this wait list. Should it pass tonight, we'll begin on Monday at 8 a.m. accepting those.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Oh, Councilmember Bray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for bringing this forward, Clerk. This just makes a lot of sense, but just wanted a little more information about it, how it would work. So I have two questions. Number one, it indicates in the language that if upon review, the establishment would have received a license, then they'll be placed on the waiting list. So does that mean that only completed applications with what your review? I'm just trying to understand, what that review process might be.
Yeah, sure. So just like I said, as if there was a license available today, we'll accept the application. They'll have to have all the attachments there. There's a checklist that is made available to the applicants that is then used on the staff side when even accepting the application to make sure that everything is there and it's complete. And so what will happen is I'll make the same review as if I had a license available. It's not a really real time, time squeezer, I guess, for me, for lack of words. So we'll be fine on that. And then, like I said, if they were in a position where they would have been approved and received a license, had one been available, then we'll place them on the wait list. The next one in line that had been time and date stamped will do the same. And we'll continue to keep this window open with the list available on the website.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then my second question is there a length to the wait list? In other words, will you maintain a wait list of 10? Are you going to allow a wait list to go as many as those who wish to apply? You could have 100, just being silly there. But what do you envision there?
Yeah, so we hadn't placed a cap on it at all. And I think that I think Monday will likely be busy. But we'll get through the handful that have been in line. And I'd say there's 5 that have really been kind of running in the race. And so we'll get them all listed after, the appropriate review. And from then, I think it'll be, new businesses that come in or somebody who's had a change in their business model or something like that. So I don't envision that the wait list will be, crazy long, but you never know.
Yes,
we'll be
thank
prepared.
you for that. Yeah. Thank you. So that just strikes me as possibly introducing some uncertainty into this piece. I think about the fact that people run out and file domain names on an internet just in case 20 years from now they might want to get a name on the internet. Or I just wonder if that would if people would think 5 years from now they might want one of these licenses and they'll file it now. Is that something? Maybe our city attorney could speak to that, or Tim or Clerk, if you're aware of it. I guess I'm leaning towards saying we'll maintain a wait list of 15 or something like that. But I'll stop there and get reactions from those who know.
I'll comment real quick, and then if Leslie wants to comment additionally. I mean, there's criteria, when their turn comes up on the list, if they don't meet certain criteria, they're passed over. And Leslie, anything additionally to add?
Not too much. It's not, I don't want to make it sound like it's a difficult process to apply for a video gaming license, but there is an expense associated to it because we require that there's a computer generated floor plan that's included. They have to have thought through spacing. They have to have, 5 seats per video gaming terminal available, other things like that. And so while I guess one of the things that we could think about, and I don't want to throw a wrench in anything, is we don't have a video gaming application fee right now, but that could be something that could be considered later. With other applications, we have that. We don't have one with this one, but again, I think that it is a timely thing to do. And the other side of it, just in order to apply, you have to have a state video gaming license. So they can't have just said, hey, I want to raise my hand and, get in line for the city. They must have already gone through the approval process and have received a license at the state level. So I think we've got a few safeguards that'll prevent that from happening.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. At this point, I don't see other hands. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
I think I was on mute. I apologize. Councilmember Matthey?
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin?
Yes.
Councilmember Milawamble?
Yes.
Councilmember Emig?
Yes.
Councilmember Painter?
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Aye.
Councilmember Crable?
Yes.
Councilmember Bray?
Yes.
Thank you very much. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. We're going to move to item 9B. And as we're going down this path, I just want to make clear that this is pursuant to a council initiative, and it is on the Welcoming America ordinance. That doesn't mean that in passing, we might not say if some people prefer a Welcoming City ordinance or one to also pass a Welcoming City ordinance, if that's not appropriate. It's just, that's not what we have on the agenda tonight. We do have Councilmember Bolin, who has 10 minutes to present this, and I'm going to turn it over to her in just a second. But when we get to council discussion, it should be with respect to the council initiative that we have presently in front of us, which of course does not preclude other actions or other situations later. Councilmember Bolin, I'm turning it over to you. Donna.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for a little bit of background or history, I want everybody to be aware that I have been following and attending council meetings since August 2014, and I'm familiar with many, if not all, the topics that have been brought before the council since then. So I would like to start with the Welcoming America initiative that I've brought forward. The goal is to gain a solid commitment from the local government, business leaders, community organizations, faith communities, educational institutions, local philanthropic partners, the immigrant and refugee communities, members of the general public, to create and then adopt welcoming practices which are based on the Welcoming America guidelines, some of which are already in place. Welcoming America is a nonprofit national program established in 2009 that provides a framework for creating inclusive communities. It has since become international and deals with modern day genocide. Welcoming America looks holistically at the community. It assesses strengths and weaknesses, and it builds on what works, and then becomes a unique assertion of our community, not someone else's, which include the values of compassion and collaboration. The resources and guidance are available from this nonprofit. And I would like to just strongly state that the quality of the process determines the quality of the outcome. So I think that process is very important. The initiative is basically just a starting point, and it's a roadmap that points us to a safe, more inclusive, and prosperous region. There needs to be broad community support which is critical for creating truly inclusive policies and programs and ensuring efforts are sustained into the long term. Our stake in this goes beyond our moral commitment to our neighbors. The community is bound together by a tapestry. Working together, a broad range of welcoming advocates build prosperous futures and strong communities. This will be reflected in simple as well as significant outcomes. The Welcoming America framework is divided into 7 categories, and to become welcoming city or welcoming ordinance, Welcoming America certification is optional. The first category is government leadership, and that's where the accountability comes in, to designate a unit or staff to coordinate the immigrant inclusion. I might suggest using the diversity director that was just hired, or a staff under his direction, or include the Human Relations Commission. The government would serve in a catalyst role to partner across sections, agencies, and jurisdictions within the McLean County. And the government also directs the community dialogue, and it shares information of community resources, government services with the immigrant residents. As a representative of local government, we affirm the importance of proactively welcoming newcomers and taking steps to ensure their successful integration. And we recognize the need to ensure that our policies and programs support all residents and encourage individual and communal prosperity. I have a few examples here. The John M. Scott program, which we just approved this evening, provides for health care regardless of citizenship. Social services and PATH are available and need to be made available. And we also are fortunate to have the Immigration Project here, which recently just received a substantial grant for opening and staffing a welcoming center. And number 2 is equitable access. We are to prevent policies that discriminate, that's a no-brainer, against immigrants because they are immigrants, or that discriminate against immigrants because of other aspects of their identity, like religion, race, or ability. We need to pursue language access across programs and services and train staff on language access. English as the second language is most often brought forward. The schools have that, but there is a Congolese community in this neighborhood that their primary language is French. So I would like to include that as well. And just recently, fortuitously, I suppose, Spanish is now included on our bill pay service that is being instituted. The third component is civic engagement, to develop immigrant knowledge of local government workings and support immigrant participation in the democratic spaces. That includes the rights and responsibility of renters, code enforcement, and any other information that's necessary from the city to be shared with the immigrant community. And from the Immigration Project website, it's listed as a nonprofit organization that provides legal services to the immigrant community in Central and Southern Illinois, and it bridges the justice gap for immigrants. I think that they serve in a very important fashion to this community, and we're fortunate to have them. The fourth is connected communities. to build relationship, support interactions, and promote communication between immigrants and long-term residents, promote a welcoming culture through communications with various institutional partners, such as businesses, the EDC, the YMCA, non-for-profits, etc. And the main thing is, to me, is that all of these activities, yes, they're massive, but the point that I would like to see happen is that the immigrants gain a sense of belonging. In order to get that, the program needs to be broad and encompassing. Number 5 is welcome and engage immigrant students that are and their parents in K through 12 schools and advance access to school programs and services. Invest in adult education. I think that's very important. Career readiness, access to technical and professional degree programs. I think Heartland is interested in participating in this. The 6th is economic development, which of course falls within the city's purview, would be assist immigrant job seekers with information training and networking, support immigrant entrepreneurs and business owners in starting, building, and growing a company, engage local employers and the Chamber of Commerce to create welcoming, equitable, and safe work environments, support immigrant workers through education on workplace rights and legal advice on workplace issues, and to leverage, the city should be leveraging the entities that we subsidize with tax dollars, such as the Small Business Assistance Program at Illinois Wesleyan University and the EDC. Strong communities in the 21st century intentionally connect with and actively include people of all backgrounds. Only through these conditions do local communities meet their highest civic and economic potential and unleash the power of their greatest asset, which is their people. As places look to harness the wealth and vibrancy that comes with the diverse talents, places that are more welcoming will set them apart. And number 7 is safe communities. And when I talk about this, I focus on the Trust Act. And that is because the Trust Act is very clear in how it limits local police force with federal agents. I have the Trust Act in front of me here. I also have the, let's see, what's it called? A report from the Office of the Illinois Attorney General that specifically gives clear direction also. I have spoken with Chief Scott, the regional manager of Welcoming America, Champaign, Illinois, who also has implemented Welcoming America. And overall, Illinois is considered very unique in the fact that it does have the Trust Act as opposed to our neighboring states. So I'll leave that at there. Anyway, I think one of the major things that needs to happen too is educating the community about what a welcoming community or Welcoming America is about. Setting forth policies to build trust between the immigrants and public safety, and train the public safety staff on working with the diverse communities, building relationships. Just recently, all of us had to do a video thing about sexual harassment, and we had to sign off on that. There's no reason why we can't get resources from Welcoming America and provide that on a semi-annual basis to remind us that there is an immigrant community that we need to care about, that we need to include in our overall community. This Welcoming America is not window dressing, as some people think. Bloomington City Council calls upon our faith communities, social service organizations to educate all of our residents about these policies and procedures, to serve as advocates for individuals when they report crimes, to develop scenarios for supporting vulnerable members of our community. Through these activities, we engage fully with one another to build a community that is safe without prejudice and filling the basic human need of a sense of belonging. There is a membership program, and the cost for that is between $200 and $500 annually. And it provides phone sessions for coaching. It provides forums, library, bulletins, access to Welcoming America Network Toolkit, access to training, and a members-only conference calls and webinars. The next step for us would be to pass a resolution for implementing or examining the Welcoming America initiative, and then join the Welcoming America Network, assign the accountability to whatever city department we choose, work with our community partners to guide the work forward, and provide annual documentation of the implementation process. I would like to make a motion at this time that the staff be provided with direction and undirected to staff to draft a resolution regarding Welcome America.
Okay, a motion, is there a second to that motion?
Mayor, I'd like to second that motion.
Second by Councilmember Bray. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor, and now we'll begin our council discussion with respect to the motion that's here. Councilmember Craybill.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilmember Bolin. Really appreciate that presentation. But to Mayor, I guess I wanted to clarify what you said before. So we really don't have the option at this point to modify or amend what Councilmember Bolin has put forward, because basically the Welcoming America, Welcoming City initiatives are not the same proposals. And I know Councilmember Bolin has expressed that she is not supportive of the Welcoming City ordinance. So basically, I just wanted to confirm, if we're going to consider a Welcoming City ordinance, we really need a new initiative. Could I get clarification on that?
Mr. Juergens, if you could clarify, does one preclude the other, Jeff?
I mean, could you have both a Welcoming America resolution and a Welcoming City ordinance?
I think that's kind of the ultimate question here.
Yeah, I don't know that those conflict, although I haven't looked to research that. But in terms of the process, I think Councilmember Crable, you're correct. To go to a Welcoming City ordinance, we would need a new initiative to start that process. Since we have been told these are not similar items, they are not the same.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, it does clarify. And so, so my position is, I think that's the right approach, because the substance of any Welcoming City ordinance really hasn't been, at this point in this current council, been seriously discussed. But I would like to see that discussion about a Welcoming City ordinance happen before we discuss and vote on any resolution for a Welcoming America initiative. And I say that because I think we need to have our internal procedures in order with respect to immigrants before we talk about trying to get a Welcoming America initiative. That's how I think we give our immigrants, whatever status, a sense of belonging. Also, I think Alderwoman Bolin, you mentioned educating the community about a Welcoming initiative. or welcoming ordinance. And I think we need to be educated by them as well. The final point I'll make is Alderwoman Boland mentioned that the immigration project is very important to this community, and I would agree with that. And they are supportive of a welcoming city ordinance. So while I'm in favor of a welcoming city initiative, I would like to see that addressed after we've addressed a welcoming city ordinance. Because of that, I'll be voting no at this time.
Okay. Other comments on the Welcoming America?
Mayor, you do have Councilmember Ward, Councilmember Bray, and Councilmember Carrillo with their hands up.
Actually, let me do it in that order. Councilmember Ward, did you say Ward, Bray, and Carrillo?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. So my question has to do with something, Alderman Boland, you in your very helpful explanation of what the Welcoming America initiative involves, you talked about at the very beginning about making it uniquely ours and describing this as a starting point. And one thing that I'm curious about is what would preclude us in making this uniquely ours from directing city staff to please come back with a resolution that would begin to codify what we are already doing by policy with regard to law enforcement interactions with ICE. It's my understanding that as a policy, the city is already limiting those interactions. Why couldn't we make that part of Welcoming America's?
Councilmember Boland, go ahead.
Well, that's not the topic that's on the floor right now. The topic is on the floor right now is, do we want to move forward on examining and or implementing Welcoming America initiative? And as far as educating the community or getting feedback from the community, Welcoming America, that's part of the process. Part of the process is conversing with the immigrant community and asking them what they need, what their concerns are, how they feel they can be resolved. But we are not talking about anything that has to do with the Welcoming City Ordinance tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't the language I used. I was really wanting to get some clarification on what would preclude us from codifying the policies that we already have as a way of making this uniquely ours. I mean, that was the language that was used in describing the Welcoming America's initiative, that this needs to be uniquely City of Bloomington. And it seems like one way to make this uniquely the City of Bloomington would be to outline some of the things that are requirements for us as a city. And it seems like the codifying the policies that we already have in place would be one way of doing that.
Well, that would be part of the process that we would
Excellent.
go through. And like I said, it's a process. We'd have to look at all different perspectives. We need to get feedback from the entire community, not just a small portion of the community. People need to understand even what the basic law is, which most people don't. So I think that this process will also help get the accurate, correct information out in the public space.
I would be very supportive of that being intentionally made part of the process of exploring Welcoming Americas.
Thank you. Was it Councilmember Bray? Was it you next, or you next, Kim?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you. And I've seconded, thank you so much. And thank you, Councilmember Boland, for your presentation. I've seconded your motion because I'm supportive of the Welcoming America platform as compared to other platforms and other programs that I've come to study and learn about. The reason that Welcoming America to me is the program that fits our city is because it is a broad-based approach, as you outlined. It looks after new arrivals in a way that other programs and other initiatives simply do not do. I've attended some Welcoming America meetings with some of my colleagues and with friends and others in the community, and studied materials with friends and others in the community, and just very impressed the way that Welcoming America looks after the new arrivals in a way that addresses their educational needs, daycare, employment, language, and helps them connect to the resources that are in this resource-rich community that we have in Bloomington. And I heard from new arrivals, students from Heartland, young mothers and fathers about those kinds of needs, and was very impressed by their words. And again, embracing a platform like a Welcoming America is something that doesn't step outside of our authority into areas of trying to recharacterize people's legal status and the like, things which authority does not exist in a municipality to do such. But Welcoming America does not step into those non-authority areas. And so I'm, as you can see, I'm very excited tonight to vote in favor of this initiative. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Councilmember Bray. Next is Councilmember Carrillo. Jen?
Yes, thank you so much. I want to echo one of the comments that Jeff Crable made about the immigration project. I don't know how many times their executive director, Charlotte Alvarez, has spoken to this body and the previous iteration of this body about the need for a welcoming city ordinance and the urgent need as probably the primary organization that deals directly with immigrants. I would defer to them as the experts. And so it is interesting that we recognize them as the experts, but are not willing to follow the directives that they're giving us and the things that they're asking from us. So I wanna, I'll be voting no for the Welcoming America initiative. To me, it is highly suspect that the people who have been against the Welcoming City Ordinance and have been pretty vocally against the Welcoming City Ordinance are the folks who are enthusiastically ushering in this process. I think to me that signals that this is a circumvention of, a conversation that is tense.
Point of order, Mayor. I'm calling a point of order.
But
we're here to speak substantively about this initiative that's before us, and Alderwoman Creel has made this some kind of a personal attack for no justifiable reason.
I'm thinking as I am, let's see, if I'm understanding Councilmember Carrillo's point, she's explaining why she's not in favor of the Welcoming City, excuse me, the Welcoming America ordinance in preference to something else. If you do, Councilmember Carrillo, begin to advocate for the other position, then that would, I'm going to have to uphold Councilmember Bray's point of order. But sure. Go ahead, and we're going to continue to go forward.
Thank you. So I think that it's very clear that the thing that has been asked of us has been to consider a Welcoming City Ordinance, and not by a handful of people, but by a larger
point
number
of order.
People.
I'm calling a point of order again. We're not here to speak about Welcoming City. We're here to speak about Welcoming.
Councilmember Bray, with all due respect, I let you talk when it was your time, and I would appreciate if you would please just let me get through a sentence so I can get to
no,
my
ma'am. There are rules that we proceed under, and we should follow our rules. Thank you.
I don't want to mute anybody. Hold on. Just, okay. Councilmember Carrillo, Councilmember Bray, I think, does mention or does make some points in terms of a point of order. This is a kind of slippery, difficult situation. So if we could confine our remarks to advocating for or against the Welcoming America ordinance,
yes,
even if you certainly can feel free to say why the other one is preferable, but
I feel like that's what I'm doing. So I'm not sure I'm understanding where the.
So go ahead.
I'll be happy to explain the point of order if that's necessary.
Okay. No, I'll reclaim my time and I'll finish my comments.
Okay, sure. If you finish your comment, and then we'll I'll turn to Councilmember Bray or others if they want to clarify that. But keep going, Councilmember Carrillo.
Yeah, so my point is that to me, pursuing the Welcoming America initiative is sort of talking, if we have the house is falling apart, there's holes in the floor, the roof is caving in, but we're talking about new countertops. So like, of course, a welcoming center for immigrants is important. Of course, talking about bilingual education and the role that that plays is important. None of the things that have been named as part of the Welcoming America initiative are negative things, but it does feel like we have to prioritize the issues that are most important. And while for some some folks, they would need a process that's organized by a nonprofit like Welcoming America to be connected to immigrant communities. I would urge us to listen to and to trust the people that have been doing the work with immigrant communities on the ground for decades, namely the Immigration Project, the Western Avenue Community Center, Illinois People's Action. So to me, while that couldn't hurt, it certainly isn't, I don't think is a priority. So I'd like to see us prioritize what the community is asking for. I don't think this is it, but I would be open to considering it down the line, but doesn't sound like the maker of the motion is supportive of the Welcoming City Ordinance. So for that reason, I'll be voting no.
Okay, just to clarify, if I can, Councilmember Carrillo, your points were that you are opposing the Welcoming America ordinance for the reasons that you have suggested, and that you're alluding to, obviously we're not going to go down the path of talking about the Welcoming Cities ordinance, but because that one is preferable, is what you're saying. Okay, I think we've kind of hit the line, but I think we're okay there. Other comments about the motion as presented, the Welcoming America program, and
Mayor,
one doesn't necessarily preclude the other, as our corporate counsel suggested. Councilmember Bray, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Mayor, I was just going to let you know you do have Councilmember Matthey, Councilmember Emig, Councilor Member Milawambwe.
Okay, I haven't seen. Okay, so who
I can read them to you again. Yeah, so we've got Matthey, Emig, Milawambwe, Painter, and Bray.
Maboka,
Painter, and then Bray.
Painter, and then okay. So everybody has spoken first, and then we'll come back to you, Kim. Thank you. So, Councilmember Matthey, you've got the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. So I will be supporting this. I think that this is the right direction to go, but I think the important thing to know is, like Jeff said, is one does not limit the other. I think, in fact, Welcoming America actually guides the Welcoming Cities in some ways. The Welcoming Cities ordinance that we have is in some ways a derivative of the Certified Welcoming Cities projects that's out there as well. So I think that to say no to this would be short-sighted. Just because the ball isn't in, hasn't made it across the 50-yard line yet doesn't mean you don't play. So I'll be supporting this. I look forward to, the group of people that we can put together to solve this or to work on this project, because it is important. Now, that being said, that I do believe that there is a next step as well, but that's not what we're talking about today. So thank you.
Thank you. Again, just to clarify, one does not preclude the other. Move to Councilmember Emig.
Yes, Councilmember Boland, thank you for your very in-depth presentation. That was helpful. And one of the things you mentioned was what Champaign, Illinois has done. And I just did some quick research that they also have a human rights ordinance.
Yes.
That explicitly codifies policy on ICE interaction with police, which to me suggests that this is in no way mutually exclusive. And to Councilmember Ward's point, I think that if we're intentional going forward, we can use this process as a way to leverage other kinds of change. And I also just want to reiterate that at this point in the process, we don't have any funds attached to this, correct? I mean, this is just moving to the next step of giving credence to staff to to begin to build the possible ways we could go next. But nobody has voted on funding or how much funding, just by green lighting the next step. Correct?
I think I don't think we even have to go to Mr. Jerkins unless he flips a middle finger at me or something. I think it's pretty.
He would never do that, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, he would. Sometimes I deserve it. But
Can I answer that to you? Can I answer that?
Julie, did you have a question?
Well, if Councilmember Boland has a response, I'd be interested.
Donna, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's your proposal. Go ahead.
The next step would be in January to approve what we're discussing tonight, which is a resolution to take the first step, basically look to see what's involved with welcoming America. And the cost at this point to get access to the resources to help us decide is between $200 and $500. I think that would be a good investment at this point in time to see if we really want to dig deeper. And then from there, decide, this is a process, decide, if we're going to give it to the diversity director. I'm not supportive of hiring more staff. I think that we have plenty of staff. The economic development department could be very helpful with supporting immigrants that want to start businesses, or helping with how do you take care of code violations, or what do I need to do in my apartment to be safe, that type of thing. So anyway,
thank you.
No, that answers. Thank you.
Anything else, Councilmember Emick?
No, that's it.
Okay, let's see. Next was Councilmember Milawambwe, and then Painter and Bray.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank Donna for bringing this forward. I took a look on the website and trying to understand what the Welcoming America is all about, and I can tell that it's a pretty robust program that will take a lot of effort, but I think it is certainly something that is worth investigating, because I can see some benefits to it. One of the things that I was curious about that I couldn't find was whether there was a cost to the certification.
There is a cost to the certification. However, certification is optional. If we're going to design it for our community, then we pull from the different categories. And in order to become certified, there might be 5 points under each category. But if we only want to implement 3, that's our decision.
Okay, good. And that was also one of the things that I was curious about, whether or not we had the opportunity to pick and choose whichever categories are most relevant to our community and what is more doable at this time, and then move forward with that. I mean, I came here about 30 years ago, and I could see there are some things in there that and I consider myself actually having come here, I guess in a different fashion than others. I had some things that were a lot easier for me. I had, I learned English, where I was, and so I came as an international student, so it was a lot easier for me to integrate myself in the community. But I know there are others who do not necessarily have that opportunity and have that ease. I mean, it was still at times it was difficult for me to integrate myself, but certainly was made a lot easier for me. So there are things in there that I think would have been made it even easier, because I can see that there are members in the community, for example, who don't necessarily understand how government functions, don't necessarily understand how to start a business, so who could have been made a lot more productive sooner if they had some of these initiatives in place. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Painter, and then Bray. Johnny?
To unmute. Oh, thank you. Couldn't get unmuted there. Thank you, Donna. I know that you put a lot of work into this, and it is very much appreciated. Thank you. I will be supportive of this. I don't think that one precludes the other. I think that this would be a great foundation for us to build our ordinance on. I think that when the welcoming city ordinance comes before us again, I hope there are some significant changes made to it, because it was nothing like what was presented to Normal. If we had been presented with the same thing Normal had, we'd be there by now. So anyway, I think this is a great beginning, and I'm looking forward to seeing this happen, because I know it has a lot of buy-in from our trusted community partners. I too have been involved in several meetings with Welcoming America, and it's a great program that is very inclusive of everyone, and it tries to bring the community together. So I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bray. Back to
Oh,
you.
thank you, Mayor. Others have covered those points that I was going to make, but thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Thank you. At this point, then, we have a vote on the motion as presented, which is to move forward with and have staff prepare a Welcoming America ordinance consistent with the
Wait a minute. It's a Welcoming America resolution.
a Welcoming America resolution. I'm sorry.
Yes.
What did I say? Whatever. Go ahead. This is your show, Councilmember Boland. So let me turn to you.
No, I just want to make sure the wording is correct.
Better than I can. Please go ahead.
I want to make sure the wording is correct.
Please.
That it's to move forward on a resolution to examine. It's not an ordinance. That's all I want to make clear.
Yeah, tonight it's not. It would come back. Is that Mr. Juergens? Is that correct? If it's approved tonight, it would come back as an ordinance in January. Is that right?
Resolution.
Resolution.
A resolution. It would come back as a resolution in January.
Yes.
I apologize. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Jeff. At this point, then, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the motion as presented?
Councilmember Matthey.
Yes.
Councilmember Boland.
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe.
Yes.
Councilmember Emig.
Yes.
Councilmember Painter.
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo.
No.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Crable.
No.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. There are 2 nays to announce, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Carrillo and Councilmember Crable.
Thank you very much. Again, let's all just be clear as we're moving forward with this, that one does not necessarily preclude the other, and we will keep moving forward. At this point, in terms of moving forward, we're going to move to item 9C, a consideration and action on ordinance 2020-18. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Gleason to see what other updates or situations we have. Tim.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. No modifications at this time, but we do expect a couple of modifications for consideration at the January 11th meeting. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gleason. We're going to turn to the Finance Director's report. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Gleason as well.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Finance Director Scott Rathbun's going to make the end of month presentation. A little bit of a change, going to share some information that we've not shared in the past or in a different way. Scott?
Thank you, City Manager. The schedule this month, it's a little too early in the month for us to have completed the November financials. The local taxes aren't due until the 25th of the preceding month. then with the Thanksgiving holiday, it takes a while to compile those, completing the bank reconciliations, et cetera. So we thought we'd take this opportunity and kind of just show the council and the community how we track and monitor and project some of our major revenue categories, and what we've done for kind of amending that worksheet to capture the impacts of COVID and how we're trying to constantly update those projections. So Phil, if you could bring up the presentation, please. Let's go to the second slide. Thank you. It's a little busy here, but this will be posted on the website after tonight for everyone to be able to review. This is our home rule sales tax, the 2021 tracking worksheet. So first, I wanted to remind everyone that we have timing differentials related to the revenue recognition. There's a 2-month revenue recognition policy where we can backdate 2 months. There's actually a 3-month delay in retail sales until we actually get the cash. But to kind of cut to the chase here, May's activity is actually for April's retail sales. So I'm going to just highlight the first red column that you see there, the FY 2021 monthly variance, real quickly, and then we'll go through the October row to kind of give you an idea of how we're tracking and what we're seeing here as we go along. But you can see for May, which was April retail sales, this was a quarantine month. We had budgeted almost 1.9 million. The monthly actual was 1.3 million. So the variance was $616,000 under budget. Now, if you scoot out to the right 3 or 4 columns, you'll see the month-to-date variance percent, and you can see that was 32.7% under budget. So as you go down that same column, that 32.7%, you can see the next month, which was for May retail sales, another pretty much full quarantine month. We were 26% under our estimated budget. And then the quarantine was partially lifted for retail sales. And you can see then we've kind of hovered around between 11% and 8% reduction. So kind of we'll run down to October, and I'll go across the row here to give you an idea of how we track. But before that, I also wanted to indicate that within this worksheet, not depicted here, is we have over 13 years of data, and we utilize that data to help us seasonalize our budget for the year. So we kind of create a total revenue expectation based on the most recent trends when we adopt the budget, and then we seasonalize that based on this historical information that we have, which really kind of captures, the obvious one is the holiday season, and then when tax returns come in, and that kind of activity. So moving on to October, you can see that we had 1.972 million budgeted. We came in about 1.8 million. The next column I didn't describe yet, but that is the state of Illinois hits us with a 1.5% service fee on our home rule. This was 2% a couple of years ago, so they've lowered it to 1.5. So that's better than 2, but you can see that the impact year to date is 148,000. Now that number is already included in the monthly actual, so the numbers don't foot across if anyone tries to do that. So our variance for October revenues was $219,000 under budget. Year to date, $11.6 million was the budget. We're at 9.8 almost. So you can see the year to date variance is $1.9 million under budget just for home rule. Now I'm gonna cruise out to the right a few more columns and jump to what we're doing for COVID and trying to project our future numbers. So you can see that the projection column there, we had a 31%, and then we were, if you recall, I used 8.5% as kind of a recessionary tail for the remainder of the year initially for a COVID impact. Well, we've updated that for home rule to be 10.5%. So that's currently what we're utilizing for remainder of the year impact for COVID on home rule. The last month being 11.1%. So we're within a material range there of our current projection, but those are the projections that we're updating, kind of utilizing what we've seen, if there's a trend, and then changing the projections going forward. Next slide, please. This is state sales tax. So sales that do not have home rule applied to them, primarily this would be groceries and prescription drugs, and registered vehicle sales. So you can see the first 2 months where the quarantine impacts severely impacted us with a $293,000 and $171,000 results under budget. But then it really bounced back, and primarily this is related to grocery sales. People kind of hunkered down. I think basically lived off what they had for a couple of months, and then they had to continue on with their lives. And the other thing, I don't have the worksheet here, but I've commented on in the past, is vehicle sales have been very strong all summer, and that helps our state sales tax numbers stay consistent with budget. So you can see we had 3 months in a row monthly variance in positive. We were actually above budget, with the last month only being $15,000 under budget for state sales tax. Next slide, please. Income tax. The only thing I wanted to highlight on this is you can see on August, the August line, we had $461,000 originally budgeted, and it came in over $1 million. Well, this was completely related to the push out from the tax due date from April 15th to July 15th. So in essence, that moved revenues from FY20 into 21. But you can see in the monthly variance column, we have been positive every month. I keep expecting for these variances to start being negatively impacted, but there are, some of the larger corporations out there are still doing very well, especially delivery, trucking businesses and things of that nature. So we're very fortunate that income tax being distributed from the state has stayed positive year to date. Next slide, please. Food and beverage, topic of a conversation very often related to our local businesses and the impact it's had on them, and obviously the impact it's had on the city. Again, you can see the first 2 months during the quarantine, variance of $143,000 under budget and $126,000 under budget. And then we progressively did better every month thereafter. The creativity of our local businesses, was evident, but it's going to remain to see what the latest mitigation rules are what kind of impact that's going to have. So this one we're watching, you can see at the bottom of the first column, this is a $4.6 million budgeted revenue category for us. So this is one of our revenues that's most impacted by COVID, I guess, to state the obvious. Next slide, please. Local motor fuel tax. The first quarantine month, $108,000 under budget, but you can see that it's been very consistent in being under budget. First, going all the way, not all the way to the right, but to the right to the month-to-date variance percent column, you can see it was 27% under budget, and then it's been hovering in the 19% in the mid-teens. Last month it was 11%, but this one, we think this one is going to stay down. I mean, this is a result of people working remotely. They're working from home. They're not on the road as much. So this is going to impact the dollars that we have available for streets and sidewalks. And so for going into 22, it's a category we'll have to look at very strongly. Next slide, please. Hotel motel. Oh, did we? Okay, local use. I've got my sheets out of order, sorry. Local use. This category, you can see that in the monthly variance column, we have been very positive. We've been averaging $85,000 over budget every month. This is a result of COVID, people shopping online. I've mentioned this several times that I think we're actually going to see an even higher benefit in this category, but this category will move to our home rule beginning in January. It'll take a couple of months to go into effect when the legislation will push the online retailers to start collecting the local portion of these online retail sales. Next slide, please. There's our hotel motel. Hotel motel being impacted very, very severely. You can see the first month, month-to-date variance percent was 70% under budget, and then 65% and 50. We had a little bounce back at 30%, but we're expecting this to be, upper 40s, nearly 50% under budget for the foreseeable future. Another one of these categories that we think will have an impact on our FY22 budget as we go into that. Just as not as many people traveling, the realization that a lot of work can be done remotely, just as we're doing this evening. And if I'm not out of order, I believe that is our last slide. Any questions at this point?
Scott, am I correct that the graphs on the bottom of your chart are what am I, additive?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, they're year to date. So
Yeah.
if you pick one and you look at the keys at the bottom, those will tie to the year to date budget and year to date actual values up in the table.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Scott. And I'm going to turn to our city manager, Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Phil, if you would put the first slide up. I've got 3 slides. Bloomington season is small. There's still time to shop local, support our local businesses. That's up until Christmas Eve day. Next slide. Downtown Farmers Market, December 19th. That's coming up 9 to 1 p.m. at the Grossinger Motors Arena. Please come out and support the farmers market. Next slide. And maybe I don't have one, but I was hoping for a Lutz Road. There we go. Lutz Road. This is updated on our streets website. But this is one, as everybody remembers, was quite the conversation, public conversation. Council supported this. And we bring to a close, at least for this construction season, a nearly complete road. So it's a very nice project for that part of town. And then lastly, just want to share with the council and the community that myself and city staff, with this being the last council meeting of the year, want to wish everyone a blessed Christmas and a happy New Year. And I even wore my festive Christmas tie. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gleason. We very much appreciate it. Thank you all the work that you put in and your staff throughout this year. It's just been great. Obviously, this has been one of the most challenging years in a very long time. In fact, so many people I've heard said, good riddance 2020 as we're going down that path. But I do want to thank everybody. I just do want to clarify a few things. One thing is, as has been reported, a little over a week ago, I did test positive for COVID. And as I was going through that, you're using 2020 hindsight because many people have talked about this. I probably, it's one of those things. I probably shouldn't have been as honest as I was in talking to the media because I'm thinking out loud. And that is, I did have a raspy voice for about a week. The doctor that did the COVID test for me said, I'm not sure that really was a time period. We're certainly not counting that toward the time that you need to be have your quarantine. And so everybody's situation and experience is going to be different, but you're looking at it once you know that you test positive, as my son did a week ago. So I immediately, before our last council meeting a week ago, went to get tested. And so once I had that information, then you're trying to piece back, what did you know? When did you know it? Those kinds of things. I don't think anybody, unless they're really whacked out, is going to go around spreading COVID just because it's more convenient for them. I was going back to try to figure out what did I do, who did I talk to, what happened, etc. But anyway, just to clarify for the record, I was cleared by the health department as of yesterday, actually, to go back out in public, not based on my raspy throat timetable, but based on when I had actual upper respiratory issues, which other than I'd never had a fever, never had all these things. It was some sinus congestion and chest congestion from that date forward. So someone at public comment said, we had somebody see you at the gym today. Actually, I was at the gym today. I will admit that. because I was cleared as of yesterday. Now, I must say also, they probably didn't note, I still keep my mask on when I'm at the gym just to be on the safe side. So everybody, please just be reasonable, logical, be safe. This is a very, very difficult time for us. There's no real reason for us to be nasty and vicious to each other or to impugn people's motives in ways I can't even imagine what the stuff means. But in addition to that, though, what I want us to make clear is we do have had some businesses, at least on our side of the aisle, unlike the health department. If you have liquor licenses, you must abide by the governor's orders. About almost a month ago, if there was any confusion, I made clear in the Liquor Commission meetings. If you're not abiding by the governor's orders, if you are violating the law, as the Illinois courts have certified, as the governor's legal team has certified, even if you think your interpretation of the law is superior to that of the governor, his legal team, and all of the Illinois courts, that's fine, but that's not the way that we have to abide by the law. I've got to abide by the law, and I'm going to abide by the law when it comes to people understanding what's necessary. Now, in the fines that we have, we cannot assess them to people who do not have liquor licenses. But we've got almost $5,000 in COVID non-compliance fines to date. I don't know what's going to happen as of the Liquor Commission later this week, but it's possible that that amount will grow. But fines are not what we're after. We are after compliance. Fines mean very little to us. We're interested in compliance for the sake of our community. And we take non-compliance very seriously, and we must. We're getting to the point that every day over 3,000 people, more than the number of Americans who died in 9/11, a date most all of us remember. Every day, over 3,000 people die of COVID. We cannot just sit back. We must, at least in the short run, do what is necessary to make this happen. We're not interested in collecting fines. We're interested in compliance. So, in line with us being the happiest city in America, we want to make sure that some District 87 families are even happier this holiday season. So, in working with our city manager and Maboka Milawambwe, our mayor pro tem, and District 87, we are working to ensure that that money is going to be directed toward the families that are having some of the greatest difficulties in this holiday season in getting through, the neediest families. And I want to thank Mr. Gleason for his extremely creative work on this as we move forward. So please, everybody, let's not use this as a time of division. Everybody is going to make mistakes. We are understanding of that. But please come together. Let us move forward. Let's get beyond this. Nobody wants this situation to happen. And I can tell you, I had a fairly mild case of COVID, at least as some people say for my age, which doesn't exactly make me happy. But I do not recommend it. And there are many people who are much more vulnerable than I. Many, over 3,000 a day now in America, who are dying because of this. Let's get this under control and then move on and rebuild. Thank you very much. I'm going to go to aldermanic comments. I'm going to start with going around the dais. If anybody has Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Jamie, anything?
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate what you just said, and just to continue that thought, the light is at the end of the tunnel, right? We can see it. McLean County has received or has a plan put in place. The vaccines are in Illinois. They're coming to us. We just got to hold out a little bit longer. You know, and regarding the vaccines, instead of what you read on social media, I would suggest you read the articles and the information being put out by Johns Hopkins or the Mayo Clinic, or even OSF and Carl Clinic Broman, regarding the efficacy of the vaccines versus what you're seeing on social media. So educate yourself with science, trust the doctors that we have spent our entire lives listening to until this year. Go back to trusting the doctors again. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, or whatever you choose to celebrate. Just be safe and be happy with your friends.
Wow. Thank you, Councilmember Matthey. Awesome. I couldn't have said it better. In fact, I didn't. But yes, absolutely. That's definitely the case. If you are putting your trust in some ideological mouthpieces over the entire world's established medical community, my advice would be don't trust doctors, medicine, the world's scientific community. They may not know the truth, but they look at evidence. Thank you so much. Ward 2, Councilmember Bowen.
Yes, I'd like to thank my colleagues for the support they gave on my initiative and wish everybody happy holiday.
Thank you so much. Ward 3, Councilmember Milawamble.
Sure. First, I want to say that I'm glad that you're doing well. Was a little worried.
That would make two of us.
Yeah, I was a little worried last week. So I'm glad that you're recovered and you're back to your usual self, as I can see.
I've never been anything other than a jerk. You know that, Mel.
That's not what I said.
I'm
Yes, and I also want to thank the staff and in particular Tim for coming up with a very creative idea on how we can use those fine dollars to help some of the neediest families in District 87. I think that's great to spread some holiday cheer for them. Certainly, this year has been a very difficult year. I think we've all kind of felt it. And we're coming to the end of the year here, and this is a good way to kind of help people celebrate the holidays, with something a little bit more cheerful for them. I also wanted to say, speaking of a difficult year, just to thank the staff in general, because I think they have been tremendous in a very difficult period to be able to continue to provide services without us seeing a noticeable drop off in service. So I think that's it's really a tremendous thing that they've done, and at no time have we heard any complaints from the staff. They're having to work under such challenging conditions. So I want to say thank you to them, and I want to wish happy holidays to everyone in the city, but also to especially some of my favorite people who are around the dais, which is all of my 8 council colleagues, including the mayor. So happy holidays.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Councilmember Emig. Any thoughts?
It's really hard to top all of that. So I'm just going to wish everyone a happy holiday. I think it's the 5th night of Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa's the 26th this year, and 2021 can't come fast enough. Just hang on to hope, and I cherish each and every one of all of you.
Thank you, Julie. Wow, that's awesome. Councilmember Painter.
Really, it is hard to top what everyone has said before. So happy holidays to everyone, and stay safe and stay warm, and the best to you in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate that very much, as usual. Councilmember Carrillo.
Yep. just gonna echo the sentiments. Happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. And if you celebrate Christmas and the story of Jesus, remember that Jesus was an immigrant and a refugee and a man of color that was murdered through state-sanctioned violence for his radical beliefs. So as you were sitting around your Christmas tree, think on that.
Wow, very powerful. And thank you. I just have to say, I'm sorry, but have to say, when I used to go to church when I was a kid and I saw this Swedish looking guy, Jesus, I thought, I'm kind of not
enough about that.
So lily white and blonde hair, but we know obviously the reality. So council member, let's see, 6, 7, council member Ward, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I won't preach at you tonight. I'll just simply say blessings for your new year.
Thank you, Molly. We appreciate that. No preaching from a chaplain. Oh my gosh. Council member Cradle.
Nothing left to be said, Mayor. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you, Councilmember Bray.
Healthy holidays to everyone and a happy new year.
Thank you all so much. And I'm so glad we were able to end on such a great note and such a great holiday cheer. We very much appreciate I appreciate all of your work, my not just 9 council colleagues, but Mr. Gleason and his great staff and our distinguished clerk and others. We don't have a whole lot of time where we get a chance to say thank you, but I say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll stop. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Waving by Council Member Boland. I am so used to that. Is there a second by the victory sign for Council Member Bray? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. We are